Hey, this video is for Greek class. It goes along with your Croy textbook, so you might want to grab the textbook and follow along with me as I explain this. We're to our third principal part, which is the aorist, and we're going to cover it in this chapter, which covers the regular aorist verbs, and then in chapter 14 covers the irregular ones. This is the simple past, and so it's a pretty common verb tense in the New Testament. The good thing is you're going to be able to recognize it because it has all the things that we've seen so far. It's got both an epsilon augment to tell you this in the past, and they have a sigma alpha infix. So epsilon and sigma equals aorist. So if you've got this verb that you're very familiar with, pisteuo, I believe, and you want to put it in the past and just say this happened at some time in the past, simple, we don't know when, it's not prolonged, it's not repeated, just simple past, then you add an epsilon and a sa, and it just becomes I believed. Episteusa, pisteues. If you add the epsilon and the sa, you believed. It's just in the past tense. Like I said, the way to form this is to take the aorist tense stem, add an epsilon, add a sigma and alpha infix, and then add the secondary endings. So you'll do this. You'll take your stem, lu, you'll add the epsilon, you'll add the sigma and alpha, and then you have elusa, I destroyed. Same pattern, take your lu stem, add the epsilon, add the sa, but now with this another s that you're familiar with in the second person singular, elusas, elusen, so that one's a little bit different because the sa has become a sen, but that's consistent with what we see in other third person singulars. Elusamen, elusate, elusan. And then this is the pisteuo form. Pisteusa, episteusas, episteusen, episteusamen, episteusate, episteusan. I think you don't need to memorize this. I hope you don't need to memorize this. I hope by just recognizing the epsilon at the beginning and the sa, and then following the patterns that we've had before. Episteusa is just the first person. Sas, sen, samen, sate, usan. So usen versus usan is he versus, or she versus they. I think you'll be able to mostly recognize this by reading it over a few times, maybe writing it out a few times, and then practicing it in your sentences. I don't think this is a chart you need to learn. I think you just need to focus on the epsilon at the beginning and the sa infix. And the aorist is just simple past time. And so that's what makes it different than the imperfect. We have 3 different past times in Greek. The aorist is a singular point in time. We don't know when it happened. It just occurred. The imperfect is this like continuous action that happens over a period of time or repeated actions. And so you have episteusamen, we believed, versus episteuamen, we were believing. Akusa, you see how the epsilon and the alpha have joined together to make a at the beginning? Akusa, I heard, versus akuon, I was hearing. If you recognize both the epsilon and the sa is aorist, then you'll realize it's simple past versus past over a period of time or past repeating. The middle then, it follows the same rules as the active, and so you start with this tense stem, you add the epsilon, you add a sigma alpha, and then you add the secondary middle ending. So elusamen, eluso, I realize this one is the one that could trip people out, but it still has an epsilon and a sigma. The epsilon and the sigma. It's also not a super common one in the New Testament, so you're not going to see it very often. Elusato, elusamatha, elusaste, elusanta. If you can find the epsilon and the sa, then you're good to go and you know that you're in the aorist. This means something like I loosened for myself, I loosened my chains for myself, you loosened your chains for yourself. Elusamen, eluso, elusatu, elusamatha, elusaste, elusanto. As you know, I prefer it though in the pisteuo form, which is formed the same way, an epsilon at the beginning, pisteu, sa, and then the ending. So episteusamen, episteuso, episteusato, episteusamatha, episteusaste, episteussanta. Once again, I don't think you need to memorize this. You're going to see it most commonly in the forms that you're going to recognize. The main is similar to the my and the met, the other kinds of forms that we've seen like that. The amatha, the aste, very similar. The sato and the santo, you're going to recognize that from having seen it in other forms. It has the same challenges because you're adding a sigma as the future has with smushing stems. So when the sigma hits certain consonants, things change. You've seen this chart before. The same thing is happening in Aorist as was happening in chapter 12 in the future. So when the labials, the things that put air through your lips, p, b, f, hit an S, it's ps. So here's an example. Pempo, I send, becomes pempsa, epempsa. You see the epsilon at the beginning, the sa, I sent. The dentals, if it hits your teeth, the sound t, d, th, z, so baptizo, baptisa. There's just so much s. So the e and the sa means I baptized. Anoigo, open, I open. When it has the sa, those palatals, k, g, k, all the things in the back of your mouth, now becomes ks, ks. And so anoiksa. And so if you can pronounce it in your mind, it will help you catch the sa when those combinations have occurred. Here's some example sentences. So, ha anthropos epistuse ton logon to theou. Find your verb, which I've highlighted here with some letters, because e and s. So, he or she or it believed, who can be the he, she, or it, ha anthropos, the person or the man believed the word of God. Here's another example. Ego epistusa auton. See the e and the sa? I myself believed him. I believed him. Hemes epempsamen ton logon. I'm trying to help you out here by overemphasizing it, but you should pronounce it in your mind. Psa, and you'll be able to catch it every time. So you definitely have something in the aorist. We sent a word. We sent a word. Ego ekroxa kai autos ekusen eme. Autoi ekroxon zon. Do you see how that's different? That's intentional. Kai autos uk ekuse. I'm trying to show you what they would look like. So it's like I cried out ekroxa. So that's in the aorist. And he ekusen. He heard me. They were crying out repeatedly, ekroxon, and he did not hear them. So the ekroxon shows you the difference when the sa hits it and when it doesn't hit it. That just takes over that zeta. You're going to catch this, though, by just doing a lot of practice sentences. There is an infinitive in the aorist, and it does happen semi-commonly. The way to recognize it is that it still has a sa. So, lusai is to destroy. We'll play around with this because tense doesn't only mean time. It's the quality of the action. And so that's why sometimes this is in the infinitive. Pisteusai, to believe. And then in the middle infinitive, you get a sa-sthai. So you're used to s-thai, but now you have a sa. That again is helping you out, recognizing the aorist. Lusasthai, to be destroyed. Pisteusasthai, to be believed. And so at this point in time, we're not going to treat these as different than the present tense infinitives. We'll come back to infinitives next semester and worry about that more. There's no epsilon augment, though, for infinitives. The epsilon augment only occurs in the indicative. And so that's something to begin to realize now, but we'll talk about that a lot next semester when we do a lot more moods. All right. The key to recognizing the first aorist active and first aorist middle forms are these two things. It always has an epsilon augment at the beginning because that's what makes it past tense. And it always has a sigma and alpha infix. So e and sa is what makes it epistusa, makes it the past. I believed. Epistusas, you believed. So that's the thing that you're looking for, the epsilon and the sa. This video is pretty short, so I would encourage you once again to go and to look at it a second time. And then if you have further questions, you can email me or you can bring them to class, and we'll talk about them. The aorist is an important tense because a lot of things happen in the simple past in the Greek New Testament. So we'll be seeing a lot of these forms as we go. Okay, looks good.